Ever since this war began, I believe all of us, at the highlight of our Friday night service receiving Shabbos, have mixed feelings. On the one hand, it is Shabbos, a day of rest, a day of enjoyment, a day of family, a day of devotion to God. And yet, on the other hand, the Jewish people are fighting for their life down south. Endless hostages, many wounded, and all of this far from being over. In a word, when we get to the highlight of our services to Lecha Dodi, I'm pretty sure all of us have mixed feelings. Should we sing it or shouldn't we sing it? If we do sing it, how happy should we sing it? Yesterday, I have to admit, I had a very emotional day that allowed me to gain a new appreciation of Lecha Dodi. About 150 rabbis of Tzohar, where I'm privileged to work, went down south, visited all the places that unfortunately were attacked on that terrible Kaf Bet Tishrei, October 7th. Sderot, Kfar Aza, the big party in Reim, that even the army compound of Ugdat Aza was attacked as well. Through all of this, it was clear that we got to the low of the low. Standing in Kfar Aza and seeing the home of Sivan Alkabetz, full of bullet holes everywhere you look. Posters on the wall of her final WhatsApps before she was killed. Not to mention the fact that you look around and there's total destruction. Hearing the descriptions of people that were not just murdered, but unfortunately raped. Various fibers of their being cut off. Maybe the height of it all was what the father of Sivan Alkabetz told us. He said that the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, were human beasts, but at least they tried to cover their tracks towards the end of the war. They didn't fully succeed, but many of the camps were destroyed, so there'll be no remnant of what they did. Not these beasts. The Hamasnikim, Yamach Shemam, that came in on that October 7th day, went ahead, took a grandmother, had her bleed to death on her own Facebook page, so her grandchildren should see it. But then the same Shimon Alkabetz said that for us in Kfar Aza, this was Churban Habayit. This was literally the destruction of the temple, the third temple. We don't have, first of all, a bayit to go back to, a home. They're destroyed. And number two, the whole community was decimated. How do we get up from all of this? And then he said a line that I just can't get out of my mind all night. He said, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, when the second temple was about to be destroyed, went out and said, we have to look to find a way to live in a world without the old temple. We have to find a way to live in a world without the old home. And he instituted various institutions under his presidency, from taking the lulav all 6 days outside the temple because there will be no temple, to many, many others, to rebuild the new world. And I was just thinking to myself, imagine Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, 16th century Tzfat, the man that composed Lecha Dodi, a man who had a very hard life, such a hard life he wrote a book called Matnot Ani, which ultimately was his Shalach Manas for Purim because he couldn't afford real Shalach Manas. Rav Shlomo Alkabetz's great-great-grandson is saying to all of us, Lo tevoshi velo tikalmi. Don't be embarrassed. Don't put your head in the mud and say, oh my gosh. V'hayulim shisa shosayich. All those that try to destroy you will go down and not you. Indeed, looking at Kfar Aza and all these places with the bullet holes. Kumitzei mitocha afecha. Come up and get up from within all the destruction around you. What a schut Rav Shlomo Alkabetz has, that his great-great-grandson is telling us that we will get out of this. We will get out of this. And every time we sing Lecha Dodi, we should pay attention to those words. They're talking about a terrible time. Whereas the Ramban says, Kol hamekudash mechavero charev mechavero. Any city in Israel that was more sanctified, like Jerusalem, is more destroyed. Imagine, if he had the optimism then, all the more so we can have the optimism now. We can have the optimism that with the Jewish army, with security forces, with Jewish leaders, and everything else we've been privileged to, we will yet sing that Lecha Dodi in total happiness and with the head.
קראתי לה לך דודי לקראת גאלה פני שבת נקבלה והיום נפשיסה שוסי ורחקו כולאי יסיס עלייך אלוהי קיצור שטן